Hello everybody. My guest tonight on Bright Future is Dr. Matthew Hurlock from the Biology Department of Johns Hopkins University. Matthew and I worked on a review paper called Investigation of How Metastatic Cancer Cells Escape Immune System Through the Detection of EMT from June to August last summer. He mentored me, and he's an expert on lymphoma and breast cancer. First of all, welcome, Matt. Thank you for coming here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, could you tell us a bit about yourself? Let's get to know you first.
Yeah, so my name is Matt Hurlock. I have a PhD in biology from Johns Hopkins University. While I was there, I studied biochemistry and meiosis, mostly cellular biology and biochemistry work. I now work as an associate consultant at a life sciences consulting firm called ZS Associates, where my work has stemmed from a range of different indications, but primarily focusing on in oncology, both stemming around lymphoma and breast cancer, and in a range of capacities, both with large and small pharma companies. So excited to be here today to shed some light on those and to talk a little bit more about the field as a whole.
Thank you. And could you tell us a bit about cancer and how it develops to our audience?
hmm So at a very basic level, our body is made up of cells, right? And the cells have to grow and divide, and eventually cells will die off and new cells will take their place. And so sometimes the genetic code, which is, you've probably heard of DNA before, that helps to tell the cells what types of proteins they need and how often they should be making these divisions and essentially when they should stop. And so when the DNA develops mutations for a variety of different reasons, I think the common one that people hear about is skin cancer and being out in the sun too much. UV radiation can cause damage to DNA, which can lead to mutations. Um, as cells incur some of those mutations in the DNA, they essentially lose something about the control over their division. Either they divide too rapidly, or the genes that would normally tell them to stop dividing and die get mutated, and the cell doesn't know to do that. Those things together cause those cells to grow and proliferate faster than they should. And in addition to that, they will take on some pretty egregious shapes. And I think the most common forms of cancer that people think about are solid tumor cancers, where that cell division forms a tumor somewhere in a body tissue and eventually grows to the point where, if not treated, can spread to other parts of the body and impact different body systems. And so the two types of cancers that I have focused on in my time at ZS have sort of been spread between solid and non-solid tumors. So lymphoma is an example of a blood cancer where the mutations are taking over parts of the lymphatic system. And the other major area of focus has been breast cancer, which I think is one that people might be a bit more familiar with. But the breakdown of that cell division and the control of the division of those cells is primarily what causes them to grow uncontrollably and either form tumors or spread to different parts of the body and impact the physiology as a whole.
So, are there any new trends or developments in cancer research, especially on lymphoma and breast cancer? Because I know that that's your expert field, that particularly excite you, and are there any areas where you see significant breakthroughs on the horizon?
Yeah, I think it's a very, I mean, you don't want to ever say that that cancer is positive, but it's certainly a positive time for cancer research and cancer treatments. We know far more about the types of cancers that we're trying to treat than we ever did, specifically the types of mutations that lead to different types of cancer. And we're much better about being able to even predict someone's likelihood of developing cancer, which is just as important as treating it once they have it. So we can do a genetic test and know pretty much at any age, what your whether or not you have a higher likelihood for developing cancer. And that helps people to stay on top of getting screened more regularly. If you have a family history, obviously, you can get screened more regularly. And so that helps people catch their cancer at an early stage, which is honestly one of the bigger parts of the battle, because usually people don't find out until it's much later in its progression and has spread to other parts of the body. But hand in hand with that, because of where we are today in terms of our ability to do research and the different discoveries and mechanisms that we've come up with, there are a wide range of things that we're now doing to treat cancer. And specifically, cancer research is becoming much more targeted than it ever was before. It used to be we would discover a molecule that, in general prevents cells from dividing. Most people know about that as chemotherapy. But giving a chemotherapy, it attacks the cancer cells, but it's also going to attack the body's regular cells. And that's why people that are given chemotherapy treatments have, the common side effects, being fatigue, hair loss is very common. And it really just makes them not feel very well. And that's largely because we're essentially killing their cells as much as we're killing the cancer cells. And that's contrasted today by the ability to, because one, we know these genetic links to the cells, and two, we've come up with some different mechanisms to attack those cells. We can be a lot more targeted. So to give an example with lymphoma, a really great breakthrough treatment for lymphoma has been cell therapy, specifically CAR T cell therapy. And to get into it quickly, the way that works is we'll take a sample from a patient. We'll actually use cells from their blood called T cells, which are a part of the immune system, and we'll genetically modify those cells to express proteins on their surface that will essentially give them a roadmap to find the cells in their body that are cancerous, and then inject those cells back into the patient. And what we essentially get out of that is the patient's own immune system is fighting the cancer. Because we took the cells from the patient, we don't have to worry as much about the immune system rejecting them. Very rarely does that happen, and realistically, the discomfort that patients feel with that treatment is largely related to the drugs that we have to give them before giving them the cell therapy to make sure that their body accepts them and attacks the cancer. But it falls under this umbrella of a different type of treatment called immunotherapy, where we're leaning on the patient's immune system to help them fight their cancer. And this is something that's becoming a trend across all types of cancers that, again, is giving us the ability where if standard chemotherapy fails, which unfortunately it does for a large number of people, then we have these avenues that we could go down that we didn't used to have. So in terms of research and treatments, it's a pretty positive time.
Okay, thank you. And last, the purpose of Bright Future, my website, is to support our young friends who are struggling and going through this disease. Would you like to say anything about this?
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing to keep in mind, when you receive a cancer diagnosis or you have a loved one that has received a cancer diagnosis, is I know it's scary. There's a lot of uncertainty that comes with it, and it can feel very isolating. I would say the most important thing that you can do is lean on the people around you, tell everybody how you're feeling. Just make sure that you have a support group of people that care about you and are here to help you through this. And if you have any questions, ask your doctors. You reach out, look for programs like this to stay connected with people, and just know that it's a scary thing, but we have a lot of tools at our disposal, and new tools are being created every day to be able to help people through these situations, and help everybody live as long as possible. And in many cases, most cases, I'd say, make the cancer go away completely. So there's reasons to be optimistic now, especially more so than ever.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for coming here again, and this has been a really informative session.
Yeah, thank you. Great to be here.